This meeting is being recorded.
We'll call this meeting of the Fair Oaks Recreation and Park District Board of Directors to order. It's our 1439th meeting, and I feel like I've been at most of them. The first order of business will be swearing in of the old new board members, John O'Farrell, Darren Mounts, and Linda Money.
Who's going to do the swearing?
I am going to do the swearing. I won't swear too much now. I think the best way to do this, I will have you raise your right hand and we'll say your name and we'll read the rest for you. Each of you can do this all simultaneous. I,
John O'Farrell.
Linda Tanani.
Darren Mounts.
do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United
that I
States.
will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the state of
and the Constitution of the State of California
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear the true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
To the Constitution of the United States.
To the
Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely.
And I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation.
Without any mental reservation
Or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties.
That I
Will well and faithfully discharge the duties
Upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
And I'll give each of you these to sign. This is yours, Belinda. This is yours. Sign that, and I will countersign that. John, welcome back.
Thank you.
Another
You're welcome.
term.
The certificate on the bottom is theirs to keep.
Yeah.
It's just your sort of.
I'll show this to the audience. Each has a certificate of election like this that says that they were elected to the office of Director of Fair Oaks Recreation and Park District on the 5th day of November, 2024. And it's signed by Tang Nguyen, the Registrar of Voters for Sacramento County. Do I need to sign these before we start here? Oh, okay, I'll do that next step. Keep going here. Okay, let's have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please silence your phones and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Jennifer, could you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Director Carhart,
Here.
Director Irwin,
Here.
Director O'Farrell,
Here.
Director Mounts,
Here.
Director Tanani. Here. All present.
Thank you. Now we have a presentation, I believe it's from Sean on the disc golf updates.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Sean Ventura, Parks and Facilities Manager. As requested last meeting, spent some time investigating other parks within our park district for pros and cons as to whether or not we could move the disc golf course from Miller Park to another location. So I've got the quick, should be fairly quick. This works. Quick button. I went through most of other parks. If they were under 3 acres, I didn't bother because they just would not work whatsoever. What you see up here is outlined in yellow are locations that are not currently used for any other activity. Fair Oaks Park is on the surface a very promising site. It's got varied terrain and foliage. It's got plenty of parking, though it is heavily impacted on weekends, especially with tournaments, in which there's no parking whatsoever, which is the case in every single one of our parks. Some of the negatives of this course is that it is a very actively utilized park, much like Miller Park. We've got a playground, which you probably won't be able to see it with this laser pointer, which is unfortunate. I'll bring a stronger one next time. The upper right yellow section, which is the grove there, the bottom left of that is right up next to another playground, which I circled these areas just to maximize space, but from things we've learned from Miller Park, we obviously would not want to put it anywhere close to the playground there. Directly to the east of that is a barbecue area, which is just heavily rented during the warmer and drier months. And the L on the far side is right up against neighbors' fence lines. So might not be a great use either, as we're seeing issues with that over at Miller Park as well. The major concerns staff has with this location is how often this park is used and how much this park is used on, I would say, on a day-to-day basis, barring, of course, the school release schedule. It is one of the most highly used, on average, parks in our park district. So that feels that it wouldn't exactly be solving the problems of errant discs and interacting with the non-disc golf public, especially due to its proximity to the playground, to barbecue rentals, to a major street in the north, to neighbors' yards. And one of the other complaints, or not complaints, concerns, is that the space here is listed as 6.7 acres, but to be able to utilize that full 6.7 acres, we have to split the course up through various sections of the park, which I think would cause issues with the general public being maybe not as aware of when they'd be entering a potentially hazardous space with flying discs. And it would probably confuse disc golfers coming as well, just because they, if you point them an acre away around some softball fields, they're going to struggle to find it unless they're familiar with the course. It is one of the parks with the most usable space, so if we wanted to explore that option, we most certainly could. But I think if we did decide to go with this location, nope. On the TV. It was worth a shot. I've got a really powerful one. Probably I burn a hole in that.
Sorry, don't want to do that.
Yeah, probably not. If we were to explore this park option, it would likely end up just having to be put in the road and back away from any other features of the park, like the playground or the barbecue area. Just like any other location and just like Miller Park, there is potential damage to the trees of that grove, and as it is one of the largest groves of native oak trees we have in the area, I've always been a little hesitant to put it there, but it is an option. Anywhere else we go outside of the grove, we're looking at either being right on Fair Oaks, right on Madison Avenue, or right up against the neighbor's fence, which are going to be the same problems we're experiencing over at Miller. Phoenix Park, very similar problem. Sorry, it's a little hard to see some of the yellow here. The pros for the site is that it is the largest possible site. Overall, if we used every section of unused space, it would be 11 acres. And then during the winter months when Little League, soccer, lacrosse, etc., are not active, it is probably one of the least used parks that we have. That being said, during those months when those activities are ongoing, it is just absolutely slammed. It's impossible to find a parking spot. People park in the neighboring streets causes a lot of friction with the people that live around there and the people attending those activities. Staff don't feel that it would be a great idea to add another user group to a park that is already overfull of users. And many of the user groups that are currently utilizing that space would actively push against it. They do not want other activities taking up that space and creating hazards in the area. Again, unused spaces are minimal. Everything that's not in yellow is a sports field out there. So like that lower left outline section over by the dog park, I highlighted it, but it's really not technically usable because it's right next to a soccer field, and a very well-used soccer field. It's one of our best in our park district. So it's kind of the fanfare field for a lot of these organizations. The lower right outline section, again, that's around a playground, which we are going to try not to do again when we design a course somewhere else, if we were going to do so. The section below the playground there is, I had to go back to some really old documentation. It may have been at one point part of the vernal pool, so again, that could be unusable. The staff is 100% not recommending at all putting any section of the disc golf course into vernal pool territory. Otherwise, the section in the middle that's highlighted, which is the bulk of the unused space, has just recently been identified in our Phoenix Park Master Plan, which we developed just a couple months ago, as being designated for other use. So staff doesn't feel it's a great idea to utilize that space for a disc golf course when we already have a plan set down on paper that is, as soon as we find funding, we'll be able to build that park out and create amenities that people already use in the park will use. Again, we still have adjacency issues with playgrounds, with neighbors' property. We've had concerns from neighbors on the upper left side of the park with any sort of adjacent activities to their yards. So placing anything there would almost immediately cause friction between the park district and neighbors of the park. Without the middle section, we're looking at probably 6 acres. But again, if we move things away from playgrounds as well, we're going to reduce that probably down to 4 or so usable space. Same issue as Fair Oaks Park. It's going to be confusing for residents walking through, whether they're in a disc golf course or not. Knowing when you're in it, when you're not, is kind of crucial to determining whether you're keeping your eyes on the skies. And every single spot except for the top right essentially has walk paths inside it or immediately adjacent to it, which again, we don't want to cross walk paths. We don't want to be adjacent to walk paths. That's what we've worked from our survey. Gum Ranch Park is on the surface very appealing. I know that many members of the disc golf community have approached the district saying, hey, why don't we put it over here? Why don't we put it over here? It's perfect. The overall space is only 3.5 acres, so it's almost a full acre less than the space utilized at Miller Park right now. And it's, again, on the surface, very enticing as a location just because the foliage is fairly dense, the terrain is varied, the creek makes play exciting. It doesn't have the same sort of use by the local kids as Miller Park, just because it's got high cattails all around it. Not saying that kids don't use it, but it's something that we would want to keep in mind if we were ever to design a course around this creek. That being said, it is a contiguous space, which is unique for some of the park options out here, which is good. Yeah, a little bit. The major concerns here is that we're street side parking only. It is already a point of friction between the district and neighbors when people go to the park and people park in front of their house. Nobody likes it. It's not illegal to do so, but it does disturb the peace of the neighbors there. It's possibly one of the worst sites for adjacency issues. If you're up at the northern end, you're right up against neighbors' property, but that lower line in that outline, the yellow line on the bottom of that shape there, is literally right next to a walking path through the entirety of this section. So not only would we be installing a disc golf course right next to a very actively used walking path, but when we get towards the middle of the shape, we're right up next to playgrounds as well. On top of that, to utilize all of this space, we would need to build and install bridges, not like the stuff that's out at Miller Park, but we probably have to work with the Army Corps of Engineers to get some real permits and stuff drawn up for that. That would be rather expensive. Not saying it's not possible, not saying it's not already on the district's radar to do so, to add a walking link over there to utilize that space, as the space north of the creek there is currently just a maintenance item that's not actually usable by the public. Other than that, and it being a relatively small footprint, it does look promising.
How does that compare with the existing footprint in Miller Park? How many acres?
Because
is
Miller
that?
Park, what we currently use is roughly 4.4 acres, and that's using the front section in the open bowl as well, and the back road. I think just the grove is somewhere around 3-ish, I believe, from the measurements I took. And this is all measured. I didn't go out and walk the entire site. I just used some online mapping tools to get them measured. So they're going to be a little off just based on angles of the satellite. Maybe not a perfectly accurate line, but it's much smaller. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. There's still possibilities to put a smaller number of baskets in. You don't necessarily have to have a full 9 in a disc golf course. Just typically they advise multiples of 3 when designing the course, and that way you can play multiple times. You'll probably notice I didn't include the Manana property. That space is incredibly limited, and it's in between multiple people's backyards with just slip post rail fencing. So any security for discs going in a neighbor's yard, it's not like, chain link fence they have to hop. It's literally duck under a wood beam and you're in somebody's backyard. It would likely be a very bad idea, the disc golf course there. Not only that, but it dead ends. And so you have to have people playing in and then walking back out through an active disc golf course, which would both disturb play and create safety hazards.
I agree with you completely on that. I'm intimately familiar with this site. I think that if you kept it to the north of the creek, primarily, maybe start down there on the southern end by Kenneth, and then immediately transition over. The real path that's in there from Kenneth goes up and connects to the street, basically follows that yellow line on the bottom there to get up into there. The other path that goes through there is somewhat, it's the old road into the pumpkin farm, and it's kind of a weird path. It's very low visibility area and stuff. So it's that one's kind of intriguing. I have a question for you. Have we ever measured the distance of the existing disc golf course, the distance from each of the goals, each of the baskets, to see what the total length of play is? Do we know that?
It has been measured. I don't have that number off the top of my head, and it's changed since we did our initial measuring, just because we've shortened holes to follow the safety mitigations.
It would be interested in looking at other sites to compare, a rough idea of the layout to see if we had the same linear distance.
It's a typical hole is on average 200 to 300 feet. Miller Park definitely doesn't have all 200-foot holes or higher. It does have some short ones. This one would likely require us to shrink them down, especially if we only use the north side of the creek, to probably 200 max on some holes, but probably 100 to 150, which would be a course, which is not something that's saying we can't do. I'm just saying that the linear space here, especially if we're creating separation between where people are standing at the next hole and the baskets, it shrinks it down just by the space you need to maintain safety. Next park I looked at is Bannister Park. I admit I'm fairly interested in this one, personally, just because the other options don't seem ideal, for the same reasons that Miller Park is having these pain points. This is an incredibly underutilized park. You see in the lower left corner that the parking lot is full. There was nobody in the park when this picture was taken, I guarantee you. They park here for free and they go down to the river because it's cheaper than getting a parking permit at any other river access in Sacramento. There's a potential for focusing the use of the park if desired. The fields here are rented by one group on a fairly regular basis, bringing the district roughly 5,000 a year or so. If we really wanted to push this space, we could consider shifting them to another field, perhaps, to utilize the entirety of the space, because nobody actually uses the park. Nobody is a little bit hyperbole.
Sean, parking has always been an issue going down to the river, and it's permitted. So how would you solve that problem?
I mean, just spitballing, this isn't an official position of staff right now. It's just things I was thinking as I was going over this, is that if we charge for parking similar to everybody else over at any other river access, it would still be an issue, but it wouldn't be the secret place to go down to the river in Sacramento. It could, I was doing some numbers, if we charged even $2 for a parking permit, it would make us more money than the field rentals over there already. It would help pay for improvements to that parking area because it is heavily degraded. And it could help alleviate the parking concerns. That said, if we've got people still coming down to the river and we've got disc golfers, that's again, just like Phoenix, we're adding another user group to a very tight space.
At one time, Sean, in the past, we looked at the feasibility of additional parking to the east of the restroom there. Just that bottom triangle there, the sort of the bare spot right there, looked like it was potentially feasible for expanded parking. I don't know. It's just a comment.
It crossed my mind as well. It definitely has the park has some legs.
Now, we own all those woods over there too. I didn't realize our property went back that far.
Yeah, so I'll get to the acreage in 1 second. We've got the 4 to 8.5, depending on how much is actually ours. By the deed we have, it does extend from the middle of the roadway out, I think, 672 feet. I went out there with a wheel measure, and I got to roughly 500, and I was getting into areas where either the numbers are wrong or people have encroached onto property that technically belongs to the park district. So that's why I have a variation on the acreage there. It could be 4 acres, it could be up to 8.5. We'd hit 8.5 if we ended up utilizing the open field there as well.
That would be interesting. If we owned that, that would be quite, I've been out there. That's quite an interesting terrain. And we had the goats out there a couple of years ago, clearing out all the brush and stuff. So that's pretty intriguing, actually.
Yeah, if we repurpose, like, let's say we did follow that and we did some parking permitting or stuff to make parking a little bit easier, we could easily encroach on the open field to make a little bit bigger parking area too.
Exactly. It has options. That's why one of the cons I put in here is that it would, the preparation, it would likely be the most expensive option because we probably do more to it than just put some baskets in. We have I walked all through that forest. I felt like I had a laser pointer on my head because there's a lot of no trespassing signs that are most certainly.
State police are out there too.
Not currently, but the no trespassing signs I guarantee are on our property that they're posted just to keep people away from land that has traditionally not been utilized by the district and neighbors.
Talk about potential neighbor issues.
Yeah. That's another one of the cons for that site. I doubt those neighbors there would have a very small voice.
John, if you go to it's at the east on the right side.
Yeah.
Doesn't that slope off quite a bit?
It does in a couple of locations. It's not, I went out there on a rainy day and it wasn't so heavily sloped that I was nervous walking through there. We're probably not getting ADA access through the entire thing in that northern section. But as you move further south, it does have some pretty gentle areas. There's still some steep hillsides there as well. But again, the very terrain and the foliage out there, it looked like an exciting location to me personally.
Now, a disc golf course doesn't have to be ADA accessible, or part of it should be, or what's the rules on that?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
I believe it falls under the similar thing as a soccer field, under those exceptions for ADA. So, because the soccer field is not ADA.
I mean, it could be designed so a certain number of holes are, just a thought.
And we'd have to check into that, but I believe that's how it is.
I agree with you. I mean, this is our least, lowest usage park. And, I mean, we've talked about higher and better uses for this for years and years and years. And it's still is just the soccer field, right? For practice or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Games.
and an exercise area that
Yeah, right,
is also
exactly.
underutilized.
Right.
I wonder if the county would be interested, since it is used so much for parkway access, if we were to make it, to monetize it, if they would be amenable to helping us add more parking there. I don't know, be worth approaching them.
Otherwise, if we do take some of the soccer field, it does have a pretty interesting option for a looped course that will start at the parking lot and end at the parking lot, so there wouldn't be any crossing paths. I think at this location, it could be designed to always be throwing away from the bike trail as well, so that wouldn't be a similar issue. There's no playground, so no problems with that. The only adjacency concerns we have are, again, the bike trail, which could be designed around, but then neighbors' property on the northern end. And we could stay further away from that by utilizing some of that open field as well.
I think the stuff on the northern end belongs to, the school. They have the houses up there to the north.
Okay.
Also, it was about 15 years ago or more, there was such a parking problem along there that there is no parking on one side of the street. I think it's
all
our side.
permitted.
If I had a laser pointer, I point to, on the eastern side. Yeah, so the right side. We do have a section there that is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. You can park in front of our park.
Yeah,
It's not the best place to park because there's a pretty steep fall out from the concrete there. So unless you got a truck, I wouldn't recommend it.
yeah, we looked at one time about even widening that out so that there'd be better parking. The problem before is people parked on both sides and there was just a narrow aisle for emergency vehicles.
Yeah, we still have those issues. A benefit of this park being so heavily used for people going down to the river is I don't think putting a disc golf course there would necessarily add to the traffic in such a way that would frustrate the residents living nearby, because they already get people coming in every single day for both the river and for picking people up at the Waldorf school. It would still change the traffic levels, of course.
Well, before they put the speed bumps in, there was a huge issue about drunks coming out of the river and speeding up to Fair Oaks Boulevard, going full bore.
Yeah, still have an issue with the drums leaving the river. It's a little bit slower now. But if we were to do this, the first step would necessarily be surveying the property to put some markers down to show exactly where our property is. If they say, no, it doesn't drop this far, it changes the dynamic pretty heavily.
We should do that anyway. That's a lot of real estate to not know whether we own or not.
It's recorded as, like I said, 672 feet from the center of roadway out to the east. I'm confident that it goes all the way out there at least in the county's eyes, the assessor's eyes.
Well, I think we would need very heavy outreach as well. I would like to see essentially us go to every door that lines that park so that they know what is happening. Because, I want to make sure that everyone has a say and let us know what they think too. We definitely need to.
Yeah, on the north and on the west, that's all Waldorf units and stuff. They may be privately owned, but they're all associated with the school there. the old Steiner College and all. Who has it now, but it's to the east and we have a neighborhood that may be more sensitive.
When we did the survey before, for where, the very beginning, we were working on Village Park. How long did that take for them to do it? Or, because we have a company that you have to go out for a bid, I think, right? But I mean, if we could, I mean, how long does that process usually take?
Doesn't take long to do the survey. Just getting out there and identifying the space and making the documents really depends on the load of the company. So I couldn't tell you for sure. I think they probably take a couple of days to do the surveying. It's a little bit of an interesting site just as far as access is concerned. Probably nothing surveyors aren't familiar with, but it's definitely, it gets precarious in some places due to the terrain. We'd also likely have to go very officially by the books with installing baskets down there because it is by Minnesota Creek, which looks to be seasonal. I think it's kind of dry during the summer months. It still had water in it. I was out there the other day, but it was raining. So any disturbing of the soil out there, we're going to want to get designs, get permits, work with the Corps of Engineers, make sure we're not messing up any ecosystems.
Yeah, I don't think that one's a blue line on the maps. It's just a dry area. But, you know, I like the idea of going ahead and getting a survey and, you know, also looking a little deeper into how much of a buffer zone we want to provide to the east and the potential layout for the remainder of the site. I think this one's more promising even than Fair Oaks Park.
I would agree on that. Just
And some land for additional parking.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could, like was said, we could go north with additional parking or east. If we utilize that empty field space, there's a lot of options out there. And then one final one, Moncrief Park. This wasn't one you directed me to look at, but it kind of hit the similar size to Gum Range, so I figured I'd take a look at it. This is probably stretching the size that we need to put a disc golf course in. We could, of course, put in 3 baskets or 6 baskets. It is also an underutilized space. It is still utilized. I don't want to lessen the activity that is out there, but as compared to a Phoenix or a Fair Oaks, it doesn't see the same average daily use.
That's primarily a neighborhood park, and even though it may be underutilized, there's probably, in my mind, as a designer, there's probably better uses to enhance there than the disc golf. There's too many potential future conflicts. I mean, it would just pretty much use up the park for disc golf.
Yeah, and I included it just for the sake of being complete with looking at sites that were roughly the same size. The staff is not advising that we utilize this space, and I can just skip over my pros and cons if you like, because it's not really an exciting spot whatsoever.
Thank you for doing such a thorough look at our system. We'll appreciate that.
And then between to the end, any other questions for me?
Questions?
No.
Directions to staff at all, or?
Yeah, my question is directive. If you want to give us a directive and want us to work towards something for the next meeting, that would be one thing.
We should maybe look at getting a survey advanced or
Possible survey and show.
You know, survey would get actual marks out in the field, which might be helpful if we were talking to neighbors or something later and had.
If we do have some
Concerns.
encroachment, it does help. Yeah.
But I think the most important thing is to see if we truly have that much area there, because we will want to keep a considerable buffer.
The survey will help us with the layout as well.
Exactly. And then the next step would be maybe work with some experts. I don't know if we want to use a consultant or work with the community, the disc golf community, just to try to come up with a very preliminary layout on the site.
Yeah,
This is a long-term thing.
this takes time, and there's also a fiscal issue that we're going to have to deal with through this process as well.
Yeah.
That's our role to do. But just I would suggest that we not go right away into hiring a designer, but to utilize a draft design and then start outreach. From
exactly.
that point, and then see where that goes.
And my thought on this is despite the fact that we have issues at Miller Park, this is not something we have to rush into. If finances or the staff time.
And even permitting.
But I think we should make this certainly a project or an effort to find feasibility at this site.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, regardless of what we end up doing, the fact that we have encroachment signs and stuff that are on the property, I mean, we need to know what's our property and what's not our property, because there could be liability issues, you know, it's whole deal.
Very good. Thank you very
Thanks, Sean.
much. Any other questions before we go into open audience? Okay, then the next item is audience or public comment on non-agenda items. And I've got several here. You'll be limited to 3 minutes each. And let's start with Clara Copperwood.
Hello, this is Clara Copperwood. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Clara. Sad because I'm not able to go to the other camp because
He's referring to the Miller Park, the back where the trees are cut
By the
down.
bath, no, there's a tree by the bathroom that the kids call a tree house that's next to the baskets on the grass. they
So
can't
you're
play.
concerned you may not be able to use that treehouse and things in the future? Well, thank you. Okay, and Lindsay Copperwood.
It's changed a little bit. Well, say, Sean, thank you. I think you did a great presentation. I really appreciate it. I can tell, I sent a proposal a couple weeks ago and I feel like it's been read and heard, so that really appreciate that. The biggest thing I would like to do, and I think this is really promising and I really appreciate listening to this. But hopefully maybe as part of the guys thought to just with the discussions about Miller Park, Miller Park, just like this, basically the baskets that are on the field, if there's a way when we're thinking about this to pull them out during peak use time, like in general. So right now the closure hours aren't working. They're coming and playing anyways. When we ask them to leave, they know that they're there. They call us bitches to our face, that sort of thing. You know, it's a problem. So can we remove those baskets and the baskets from T7 that run towards the park while we're figuring this out and leave the baskets in the woods so people can play? And then, because again, even with the closure hours, 10 hours a week for the kids to play, it really isn't enough. If someone's on the course and comes every 30 minutes, it utilizes the course really for the entire day. And so there's really not a time period when the kids can really get out there and play. I talked to Mike and we were talking about right of way and things, and that we can't really do a right of way because we can't say that the kids are absolutely there, because what if they're sitting there and not being polite about it? But I'm like, well, at what point? I don't know. It's been a real challenge. Also, you know, it's a bunch of women being yelled at by a group of men, which it can be very uncomfortable. I mean, you think about, you know, would you care to be sitting there and your wife or you being called a bitch or a fucking mom to your face? While I was here at the board meeting, when everyone's here, having a murmur, what are these bitches gonna say? You know, it's not a pleasant thing. As far as I know, there have been no reports of us being physically aggressive or violent towards the disc golfers. You can, if there has been one, but it's only been towards us. And so what I would like is to remove the 95% of the conflict, which is those baskets, and allow people to play and so enjoy a beginner course, which is what it is, in the woods where the majority of children can be moved for playing the disc. No, they don't mind it. It's the lawn and then the baskets being thrown towards the park that are the problem. It doesn't seem unreasonable to, while we're figuring all this out, to do that.
Thank you. Sean, I got a question for you. Remember, we were out there talking about relocating some of those baskets. Has that been completed yet?
The ones in the field have moved away from the pathway. But so far we haven't received final word on moving that whole 7 further away over that way, towards the west.
What about the ones we talked about over by the creek, the far west end? Of the creek?
That's the one I was saying has not yet been moved.
Okay, that was somewhat problematic. The other question I have for Mike, though, is that we were going to be working with the user group to try to have some, self-policing of a facility to get the user group. Is that progressing at all?
I can speak on that. Yeah, we reached out to the user group. We tried to come up with some terms, between those terms, the user group. And we also took those terms to our risk management, which we do with any agreement we do with our community partner groups. And they identified some risks and some insurance requirements of the group to identify the district and some limits that they would want on those that policy. So that has been taken back to the user group to review. I don't know how much of a challenge it may pose to them, being that they are a volunteer group. They might not have a large funding source to purchase insurance, which is obviously costly these days and challenging to get. But being a volunteer group, I know they'd have to formalize a little bit more, so it's not on one individual to have to carry the insurance. So I know they're working through that. So yeah, we're in constant communication with them, and hopefully we'll have some more update next week.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, next one, Stephen Lacey.
Hi, my name is Steve Boyese, resident, about 15 years now. I think you actually know my uncle and aunt, Hugh and Gary Gorman.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Anyways, I came to speak on the disc golf course. And again, Sean, yeah, that was a great presentation. It was great to hear the reasonable assumption brought into that, because that's something I was going to touch on, but it seems like you guys have already got it in your mind and are thinking about it. But Lindsay is actually the one that informed me about some of the incidents that had taken place, and it definitely got the hair on the back of my neck standing up. My daughter is a first grader at Burlington, and I pick her up every day. And just like Lindsay says, even though we have posted hours, there are people playing, so there's still risk. It seems like there's no teeth on that shark, so to speak. So I don't know what we can do about that. A little bit about myself. I am a project manager, engineer, estimator for a construction company. I've been doing that for about 8 years, and I've been hundreds of projects working with municipalities from all over the state, all sorts of different levels of government, all the way up to federal. And whenever there is a safety issue, there's really only 2 courses of action that are taking place. And one, you temporarily halt the action in question until you can take a corrective course of action, or you eliminate the action in question altogether. And I'm just not seeing that on the park. I think Lindsay's got a great solution about eliminating the disc golf holes that are the largest conflict, and then leaving the others. So I would just like to throw my weight behind that, and then say thank you.
Thank you. And last here, Marissa Picard.
Hi, I'm Marissa Picard. Yeah, I also want to say thank you. That was an incredibly thorough assessment, and I really wish that we could all say that the same was done for Miller Park before this was put in, so we weren't having this conversation over and over again. A couple of things that came to know. Bannister looks like an amazing place. If the soccer fields are underutilized, can we take that space and use this for this? I think that might have been mentioned, but I just wanted to put that out there. And then for the neighbor survey for Bannister, if you get any negative feedback, do you just squash the whole plan altogether?
Not usually. We try to mitigate the problem and satisfy everyone. That would be the approach.
Yeah, okay. My concern is that like the Miller Park residents are complaining, and if one person over at Bannister says, I don't want it, then it's not an option. So just want to make sure that there's a plan in action.
You know, I mean, we look at the use of the community at large, we don't put extra weight on, I mean, we look at everybody.
All right. Thanks. I feel like it might have been mentioned, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it would be wonderful if we could put together a committee of Fair Oaks residents to give input on the plans, to include some of the disc golf users of the course and maybe parents of Leggett that have interacted with this. I'm also a parent of Leggett. I would love to be on that and provide input. So just would love that to be considered. I echo what was said by Steve and Lindsay. Over the last 2 weeks, I have seen on 4 separate occasions the disc golf course being utilized while the park is full of children. And they don't really seem to care. I took pictures of the last 2 people because I feel like nobody's gonna believe me if we all just keep saying it's happening. But they're standing directly next to these like white signs that say the disc golf course is closed and they don't care. So I don't think that that's working. And I also haven't seen the bags or the tees, whatever, bagged in like a couple of weeks. I don't know if anybody else has, but I personally have not. So I just want to make that a note, and that's it. So thank you.
Thank you. We're still bagging those. Who bags those?
In the morning, it is my staff, and I've spoken to them about, they did slip a little bit, and I was only recently made aware of it. After that, it was the community partner group and volunteers. I don't believe we're seeing the same buy-in for that at this point. So either bags get left on, which at this point I'm okay with. They get left on all day.
Yeah.
Or they're taking them off and not putting them back on for other closures.
Yeah.
So I definitely addressed this concern with my staff for getting out there and putting those bags back on, and I apologize that they have not been as.
Thank you. My thought too is where we've relocated baskets to be safer, it only leaves that what do you call it, D7 or something as the biggest conflict right now. Is it problematic to, as they say, you know, if we think it's a safety issue, to just shut that one down until we resolve that? Is that something?
It's as easy as opening a lock and pulling the basket out of there.
Or covering it permanently?
It'd be difficult to cover permanently without somebody being able to get back into it.
Yeah, until we figure it all out. Okay, well, thank you.
We have 2 comments on.
Okay, put them on.
Rebecca is our first one. I'll let her unmute herself. And Rebecca, go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much for taking the time and listening to our comments today. I do also want to echo what everybody else has said, and I really appreciate the presentation on all the alternative sites for possibly for moving this course to. For a while here, it didn't really seem like that was actually going to happen, that it was something that was actually going to be considered. I'm here just to echo on what everybody else has been talking about today, about the ongoing safety issues at Miller Park during the closure hours. I myself have also witnessed multiple people playing on almost a daily basis during the closure hours. Sean did get back to me yesterday because I submitted a complaint yesterday about some people, multiple people that were playing, and he noted that I guess some of the closure side, the hours or the paperwork that said that the park is closed had been torn down off of the signs, but that they were going to be put back up. Either way, people are still playing. And last week, I had an extremely negative interaction with some golfers using the course during the closure hours. I was sitting on the picnic table closest to the playground, minding my own business, when a disc comes and hits the table and nearly hits me. I informed these people that the course is closed, and one of these individuals, took it upon himself to give me a huge attitude, swear at me. I'm also 7 months pregnant, visibly pregnant, and that didn't stop him from, treating me terribly and swearing at me and cursing at me when I'm just sitting there, presumably in the safe zone, just minding my own business and watching my children play. And that part, and again, that disc, which when it hit the table, I could feel how heavy that disc was. And I'm just grateful that it didn't actually hit me. So if something can be done, anything that can be done in the interim to address these, like I said, these ongoing safety issues, I greatly appreciate the fact that the board is considering moving this course to a different location and everything. But again, it's not, I don't really see how the ongoing safety issues are getting addressed now at the park, particularly during, I mean, if we're only going to focus on one time, it's really got to be that like 3 to 4:30 time when the kids are there. And I noticed the bags. I'm also a resident. I live walking distance from Miller Park. I'm there all the time. And I have noticed that the bags are, that the tees are covered in the morning, but they're not being covered in the afternoon, which in my opinion would be the most effective time to actually have them bagged, since that is when there's the most kids that are there playing. Yes, there's a lot of kids walking through the park in the morning just to get to school, but
I'm going to have to cut you off now, but
Sure.
thank you for those comments.
Thank you.
Ian, who do we have next?
We have one written comment from Paloma. It says, I appreciate the presentation covering all the parks, and it seems like Bannister is the best option. I also value the board's initiative to begin surveying the community and taking next steps. However, this does not address the immediate safety concerns at Miller Park while these decisions are being finalized. I would like to reiterate the importance of addressing the safety issues promptly. Until a resolution or appropriate mitigation measures are in place, I continue to propose temporarily suspending disc golf use at Miller Park to ensure flow of safety.
Yeah, I have to comment. I can really agree with the safety issue. If we have continuing safety problems, we need to take some action.
Well, it's not only the safety of it, it's the attitude of the people that are out there that are causing the problem. And I don't know how you fix that.
My first step, and I don't know that it'd be effective, is to put up a sign that failure to adhere to these hours is jeopardizing this park. It will be removed if this behavior.
Well, it may be removed anyway.
I know, but at least in the
In the
interim.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, I think that's it right there. There has to be consequences.
Just basically
Right.
say this program, this facility is on probation, and if there's continued violation of the hours of use, it will be removed.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I mean, I like more signage is always good, but I think, I like the idea of we need to have someone there, I think, too, at least on a temporary basis, like at the park after school. Because it's not, I mean, it's one thing for someone to send a complaint in and then somebody rushes over from, wherever, either Fair Oaks Park or the district office, but okay, school is out on Friday and then there's 2 weeks and school starts again January 7th. I mean, can we start January 7th by having someone at the park for like the rest of the month? If nothing else, I feel like it's an hour. It's an hour
Yeah, I
of
think we
someone's
should
time.
focus on the 3 because the people that are doing this kind of activity are not up at 8 in the morning. They're in there in the afternoon. So I think if we shift our efforts from 8 to 3, I think that would help quite a bit.
And I don't think it necessarily has to be a park person. It could be someone from the rec side. It needs to be someone from the district.
And then one thing just for the parents, like one thing that would be hugely helpful, like if you could take video of these interactions, like that would be super valuable.
It is public, so you are.
Yeah, it's a public park.
Right.
But I would love to see a video of a disc golfer threatening a pregnant woman sitting on a bench, like that's legit and, cause
Wait a second, I'm sorry, but that came off as like, you don't believe Rebecca, that's legit.
That's no.
No, that's not what I said, but it's definitely more concrete than somebody making a statement.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
There's no.
Take their picture, post them on the sign.
For the,
I have
to directed to Manny's thing, do we have somebody that can be, I don't know if that is the best use of resource, but do we have someone that can be there for an hour per month?
Let me address that. You're talking about 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Yes, it may only be an hour, but they're probably coming from another job.
Right.
And to clean up that other job, get the tools put away, get to the park, get back out to do whatever job they're
When do
doing.
they, Mike, when do they sweep the garbage cans
It would be hard.
on a daily basis?
I don't know.
It
I don't
varies.
think,
Typically,
I really don't.
After hours, it's later in the evening.
So could we reschedule that to between 3 and 4? Like, that's when they clear the garbage cans.
They also close the parks and close
They do a
restrooms
lot
and stuff
of
when
that,
the
yeah.
when the parks are closed.
Right.
Or
I
we
think
need to
it'll-
close the holes during the hours, during the closure hours, the holes need to be closed. I mean, if people aren't listening to the signs, they're not listening to people, they're not.
But I do think if we do say something like this is on probation, and if it is not adhered to, it's gonna be closed, and then it's just, and that's that.
Yeah.
For the time being.
Well, hybrid with Linda's suggestion is we could close it in the afternoon and say
I mean, you
it's
still
on,
put the sign
it's
up.
on probation.
But
And
someone would
right
have
now,
to be there to
because
close it,
there's,
we have somebody
there's
to
bad,
close it.
because
3 o'clock
there's
every day.
bad adherence to the rules, we closed it in the afternoon when school kids are here. And it will not be reopened until we have,
Until
some
further
evidence that, that people are adhering to the rules. And if they don't, the whole park, will go, the whole facility will go.
So that's something we could hypothetically deputize, a parent to do that. That 3 to
Probably.
4, I'm sure, would the parent group want to be part of that, help that?
Probably.
Carries more weight coming
I
from
think it'd be better having a
staff
third
staff
employee.
member.
Do we have that?
I don't wanna set up a conflict.
Yeah.
It almost seems like that needs more. I mean, to me, it just seems like we're avoiding the simplest fix and removing the 3 holes that are the most concerned, the most high at risk. Once you remove them, there's no
There's still
potential.
10 baskets.
There's no potential. These people
Well,
will
that's a
still play.
possibility too, but it still bothers me that people are not adhering to the rules. Somebody said they ripped down the signs that say that. So our sign ought to be good and substantial. There ought to be a good warning that continued misuse of the facility jeopardizes its existence.
Well, how many complaints do we have submitted in the last 2 months? How many more complaints do we need to submit? We have like over 20 complaints.
Well, I got to remind you too, this is a discussion of the board. I appreciate the public comments. but
Sorry.
We gave you that chance and we heard you.
So is there, again, for the same time, in either way, either somebody sitting there watching or closing, do we have somebody that could go and close those from 3 to 4? Or is there, so that's actually a question.
It's possible, we could allocate a resource to just do that. I could hypothetically, if I had internet access out there, just work on my computer at the picnic area because they're powered, so I could not lose productivity and still monitor and enforce it if need be.
Well, unless there's substantial new comments or stuff, I would like to move on. I think the staff has heard the issues and we've heard the issues and we've got some direction to start taking some further action. So can't promise that action tonight, but you've seen what we're trying here.
So I don't hear, what are we saying though, Director?
Right.
When it comes to
Yeah,
the
right now,
directive right now.
Staff directive I have to survey Miller Park or Bannister Park.
So what about anything as far as additional signage or a closure from the 3 o'clock?
Great discussion. we just need a clear.
I think I think we want to put the users on notice through a sign of some sort that the park, the facility is on probation because of failure to adhere to the hours of use. And if this problem continues, if we see evidence that continues, we will close the facility down. It doesn't mean necessarily we'll remove it, but we will shut it down until we resolve the issue. The other thing is if staff feels that they can do this by taking out the 2 or 3 offensive baskets, that might be a temporary solution. And
Well, that would send a statement out.
That's a different action.
Right now, I would support that.
I think we have.
I'm okay
with that.
So the directive is to remove those 3 baskets. Yeah. Until we have them.
And also let people know why.
Yeah.
I think technically would be 4. If we're doing the 3 in the front section and the 1 coming towards the playground.
I mean, it doesn't mean we might not relocate them later or put them back, but,
Right now.
right now they're on probation or they're closed because people aren't following rules.
I think temporary closure until further notice.
Yeah.
That's, I agree. I agree.
Okay, of the four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Polls blank, 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 and blank are temporarily closed further.
And if you put up some kind of sign, make sure it's not easy to tear down and throw away.
I know.
I don't know about the part about having more staff out there. I think that's desirable, but from my point of view, that may not be practical.
Well, if the four that are near the playground are open, I think that should hopefully resolve the problem, especially if the sign says you close until further notice. It will news will travel. Why?
Yeah. And Sean, if there is some slippage in getting those things covered, maybe we can talk to the user group or something, or you know, have your staff monitor it a little more carefully.
We should just take it out.
Yeah, it's 1,
Where's
2,
the ticket?
3, and
Okay,
7 will be
okay.
removed.
That's all. Okay, doke. Well, we've spent a lot of time on this. I hope it's helpful to the park users. And we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the consent calendar.
Motion to approve. Second.
No questions on that or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we move on to new business. The long-awaited Fair Oaks Youth Advisory Board report. For you, this is kind of a lesson in civics here.
I enjoy sitting in all of this. I really like to hear about everything. I'm Matthew, chair of BOYA. Last meeting was a pretty fun meeting. We didn't really do much pushing things, but we discussed the Grange signups, which will be starting next month. And then we made hygiene bags for the needy, which included hand warmers, toothpaste and toothbrushes, first aid kits, deodorants, and socks.
What will you guys be doing at the Grange?
So at the Grange, we'll be cooking food and then handing it out.
Breakfast.
Yes, breakfast.
So they
Oh,
like their
actually for their monthly breakfast. Don't go away yet. Who did the bags for the needy? How's that? How does that work? Through
So
through the food bank?
So at the tree lighting event, we collected funds. Those are like collections instead of like doing like socks or something. And then that went into buying all the supplies, which Mary went out and bought.
Oh, and what's the distribution for those? Is it through the food bank or through?
I'm not exactly sure, but I can definitely talk to Mary and get back to you about it next.
Okay, I was just curious. Yeah. Good work. Thank you. You guys are doing great.
Yeah.
Okay, item 8.2 is a discussion, possible action on operational overview, Village Park Community Center and Fair Oaks Performing Arts Center. This is how we're going to use the new facility, right?
Yes. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Board of Directors. Jen Schuler, Arts and Entertainment Manager. There's about 30 slides here, so I'll try and talk quickly because it's already late. But so this is basically an overview of how we planned to utilize all of that new construction across the street there. Just to kind of preface as well, this is a very broad idea. There's not a lot of specifics, but it gives you an idea of what we're going to do and some possible numbers and things like that. But this is all sort of projected too. So, now should be it. So a couple things we'll go over. We're going to kind of talk about when the facility will be open, so that's really exciting. Some guiding principles that we sort of, every kind of thing we decide to do in this space, we're going to run it through this filter to make sure that we're on the right path. And then some ideas of the operational model that we'll use. We'll go into some things about programming, and then we'll talk a bit about the financial framework and then some next steps for the community. So first, the facility opening schedule. Right now, the things that will be opening over there, just so we kind of be clear, the newly named Fair Oaks Performing Arts Center will be open. That includes the Veteran Memorial Amphitheater, but will be the black box space as well. the new community, not the new, but newly renovated community clubhouse, the band shell and the arts and crafts building, as well as the plaza stage, which is pictured right there in our rendering. The idea right now is that we have a soft opening tentatively scheduled for April to early summer of 2025. This will give us some time to have some initial operating and staff training. We can make adjustments to some programming that might have in the space, and then it'll be open to the public at the time for them to see and use the park as well. We might not have giant productions at that point because we're trying to get some kinks out. And we do have to be kind of cautious how we schedule that, because the last thing I want to do is have to cancel a performance of some kind. So that leads us into what we're hoping to do is tentatively scheduling our grand opening event for the summer of 2025. And from there on, we will be able to do programming as we like. I mean, there'll still be adjustments in the first year. As we know, it's a brand new space, so we'll try and we'll make some mistakes and we'll learn from them and carry it forward. So these are our guiding principles. We're going to celebrate community as much as we can by leveraging arts and culture to reflect the unique identity of Fair Oaks. We'll inclusive access, so ensuring that programs and facilities are welcoming and accessible to all. We'll have active collaboration, so partnering with our local organizations to have enhanced programming, quality, and diversity. Pragmatic development, so offering programs that are both innovative, also financially sustainable. And then proactive engagement, so continuing to refine activities to meet evolving community needs, right? As we know, Fair Oaks is kind of ever changing. I kind of grew up across the street and it looks a lot different than even when I was here before. So that's what I'm excited about.
And I just want to remind the board that these are approved by the board through the AMS report that we approved a few years back.
Speaking of the AMS report, so a lot of this operational plan was built off of these sort of 3 pillars. So our ideas in the district for what we would like the space to look like. So our operational plan, that's mostly focused over here in Village Park Community Center, Fair Oaks Performing Arts, the Veteran Memorial Amphitheater, and the Community Clubhouse, but with always through this lens of our commitment to community. And then also referencing back to that AMS planning and research report that you guys all saw over 2 years ago now, right? So looking at that, from that AMS report, this is the version of our operational model that we've decided to go with. It's a combination of these 2 ideas of host role and presenter role. So host role, providing space for key programming partners, supporting community-led events, right? So that's like our Renters, our Fair Oaks Theater Festival, things like that. And then presenter role. So this is directly organizing and curating lineup events. That's like our comedy series in the summer or bands that we might put in that space. So that's the idea. Forward. When thinking about planning these events and programs, we are looking to really offer events that range in that 200 to 400 people. We don't want to necessarily bring things that are obviously going to clog the village up too much. I don't want to say the P word, but we do have a parking issue in the village. But so we're looking in that space to make sure that it doesn't feel overwhelming, but we still feel like we can bring the community out. That might mean, though, that we do occasionally do a larger event. I know there's still talk going back and forth about whether or not the Chicken Festival will come back to the space. Obviously, Christmas in the village and Fiesta Days bring a lot of people as well, so that still might happen. So just so we're still thinking about those things. Now let's talk programs. Oh, I didn't know it did that. So the amphitheater, everyone's really excited, right? Yay! We'll have a variety of things, right? We'll have live performances. This can include, things for bands. I'm hoping to bring some acrobatic groups that I have, dance shows, variety acts, comedy, pretty much anything under the sun. I think we can do a lot with that space. So obviously, we want to bring all of our community theater groups in that we have. So we've got Fair Oaks Theater Festival. I've been working with a group called Valkyrie and Women's Collective Theater that we're hoping to bring in as well. So those are really great. They also can bring in youth theater programs to engage those young developing actors. I know I did theater in the clubhouse when I was little too, so I'm reminded of that any day. That's fun. And then of course the space will also be available for community partner rentals, nonprofit rentals, and private commercial rentals as well. And it could be school groups like graduations or weddings, maybe. I don't know who wants to get married in the amphitheater.
You gotta Photoshop this to put this.
Put a little person on.
Put the individual seats in there.
Yeah, right. So these are some numbers of some of the amounts of these performances we might have in this space. Just, I know they seem really low right now. This is what we've projected for basically our opening first year, which we're looking at would be summer 2025 to December 31st, 2025. Right? So obviously, if we don't hit those numbers, that's okay. If we're a little low, it's just an idea of what we're kind of hoping to bring to space. So that's about 4 live performances of some kind in the amphitheater. That's just like musical variety acts performances, also having about 3 theatrical performances. That could be like 3 different shows, not just like 3 nights of a show, if that makes sense. And then hopefully we have about 2, probably more, private rentals in that space as well. So looking at that, we'll move on to the black box, which is my favorite space. Don't want to play favorites, but I like the black box for the point number 1, which is it's an extremely versatile space, not only for like theater and musical productions, but any type of event that we'd like to do. So that's what we're hoping to bring in that space, as well as any other type of live event. We can still do comedy in there, we can still have bands in there, we can still have music in there, but it can also be a great space for speaker series. It can be a great place to have workshops or classes. It's a great spot for immersive events and things like that. We can have dances in that space. We can also, do when I have culinary experiences. We can have receptions, all those types of things. It will also be available for private facility rentals, so open for our community partners, nonprofit and commercial. Yes.
Yeah, one question, looking at the pictures that were taken recently inside there, there's a lot of conduits and other stuff. Are we gonna fix the interior to look really cool like that, or will we?
Like the rendering?
Yeah.
Well, we'll at least keep the cables from dangling down, but yeah.
On that far eastern wall, there's all kinds of.
Yeah, so it won't be as
visible
visible because the whole building will be painted black inside. So all of those, you won't see those as much, and we'll have curtains in there as well. So some of that stuff, you don't really see curtains in this rendering, but you can definitely hide some of that if we'd like to, or move off to the side. Once the lights are dimmed, you don't see a lot of that stuff too if we're doing an event with the theatrical lighting that's in there.
Yeah, right now it stands out like a sore thumb because it looks like a stage. Yeah, it looks like a stage. So the other question, we did some extensive acoustical studies, or we got an acoustical expert when this was being designed. Did they look at the acoustics in the black box itself when we have events there, or was it just for the amphitheater?
I would direct to Mike since I wasn't there. I know they did it in the clubhouse for sure, and I know there was thought when designing a theater, they think about those things.
I believe it's, then I'd confirm.
We'll probably find out if the acoustics are bad in there.
We did the acoustic study for the clubhouse, we did the acoustic study for the amphitheater. I have to check on it.
Be nice, I'd like to see if we did
Our
that.
team's good, Dale, I'm pretty sure.
If not, undoubtedly, there'll be some retrofit in there to make it.
Yeah, I would assume that they have. I mean, I can double check, but since we're putting in all new monitoring and sound system, they would have to check all of that.
I hope so.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so then the same thing with amphitheater. I have the black box programming ideas on how we're gonna kind of frame those and the numbers of events we want to have. So here we have about 3 live performances in that space. We'll also have workshops, those are educational classes. I would hope we have 2 or even more. Examples of those could be, acting or improv or clowning. That would be cool too. We also hope to have a couple theatrical rentals in that space as well, so up to 2. These could just be from local community theaters or schools, and then we'll also have hopefully at least 2 private rentals, but that always can change. But remember, that's only for basically that 6-month period. So, the clubhouse. So the clubhouse, obviously the one standing building that we've just sort of updated. So again, we'll hopefully bring a lot of those classes and things that were in there before. I know Norm and Phyllis, our line dancing folks, are itching to get back into the space. So we'll hopefully have that open for them. But again, that's a prime rental spot for us, so we have it open for private and public rentals for all kinds of events. A lot of our community partners use that space, as you guys know. We'll also be able to hold meetings and activities in that space. Again, we can bring a lot of our classes back there as well. I know there's some Zumba and fitness classes that would love to be back in there. And then again, it will be open for private facility rentals too. So we see it as a great place for us of some kind too, especially with the addition of the updates to the kitchen that we're going to make in that space too. So yeah, I'll try and run through this quickly because this is just the amount of things, right? So hoping about 3 community groups will be in there. I think that'll be a lot more, but this is just sort of an average. Private event rentals, about 2. Fitness and recreational workshops, about 2. And then large community events, probably just 1 of those or so, but maybe there'll be more as we search for. Arts and crafts building. So this space will be a great spot to host birthday parties, or just like, you know, it could be art based, or it could just be a space where kids can be a bit messier and you don't have to worry about it. It's also a great spot, obviously, for arts classes, but this can be for any age, not just children. We're hoping we can have some specialty workshops. We do have a kiln in there, so it would be kind of cool to be able to actually activate that. And then again, this will be a space that we can rent out for private rentals. This one, I think we can activate quite a lot. So we're looking at hopefully about 4 parties in there, 4 classes a week, and then 1, possibly more private rentals in that space as well. Our outdoor spaces. So we have 2 now outdoor stages where we can have mostly free, probably all free community events, but the big one that everyone's really excited about is our weekly concerts in the park that we hold there in the summer. So we can bring that back finally. So that's an idea for that space. We can also host family-friendly movie nights out in that space. We can have informal pop-up events. We can also partner with food vendors or local businesses to do, you know, all kinds of culinary events or wine tastings or things like that. And then also, I think we'll have that space for rentals as well. So, so this is sort of, I think, a mixture of our ideas for both that back band shell area and the plaza stage. But we'll, you know, have our weekly concerts in the park during the summer. Maybe 1, maybe 2, that would be fun. Family-friendly outdoor movies. Not sure if we can swing that in year 1. And then maybe 2 informal pop-up events we have to see. And then we also probably 1 private outdoor gathering or wedding. That might be nice out there as well. Let's talk about everyone's favorite subject, money. So these numbers that I'm going to go through now all came from that pro forma that should have been attached to your operational overview. This is something I built out mostly when we were discussing hiring a technical supervisor, but it does have some good numbers in there for projections on what I see for a first year. So the projected revenue and ticket sales and service fees are right here. So right now I'm projecting, this is a first year, so now I'm going to take a little journey of time. It's not just going to be that 2025. This is like, if I say we're going to go summer 2025 all the way to summer of 2026. So it's a full year. But that's why we've broken it down by month as well, so you can kind of see what could be that projection month to month. So ticket sales for the amphitheater and theater events, we're looking at 21,814, or an annual of 261,777. Ticket fees, so this is just additional sort of service fee attached to that for the theater and the amphitheater, is 3,146, an annual of 37,756. Other projected revenue, and I'm going to move your little box here because I can't read the numbers from that far away. So we've got some projected income from rentals. So this could be 12,397 or an annual of 148,772. This is mostly projected rental from what would be the new facilities that we have built there. So I didn't take into too much consideration about the clubhouse and the outdoor things because we won't make a lot of revenue off of those. This possible projection of food and beverage revenue, if we get a concessionaire, is 1,977 with an annual of 23,728. Miscellaneous income, merchandise, extra fees, about 839 with an annual of 10,078. And then other contributed income, this could be memberships, sponsorships, individual contributions, grants, programming, advertising types like things like that. About 6,119, an annual of 73,433. So next is some projected expenses for personnel costs. So right now, we don't have a full staff in arts and entertainment, but we do have a few of us, and we'll have a few more soon. So right now, that first year personnel cost for full-time employees, approximately 207 and 478 in year one, raising to 223 and 865 by year four. Our part-time personnel costs in the first year, I'm projecting about 151 and 655 in year one, raising to about 154 and 703 by year four.
So what, like say year one, year four, what you're talking about here, like, so what's year one capacity estimated at, like as far as revenue goes versus year four? So obviously we're gonna have fewer rentals and stuff like that for year one than we're gonna have in year four.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to pull up the exact number of, I'll go through it here.
Just like percentage, like. If
So
if we're projecting 50% year one or 40% year one, what is the year four percentage of like actually capacity of rentals and all that stuff?
Don't have that for you right now. Yeah, sorry. I mean,
I'm just wondering, because the differentiation is so small between our expenses from year one to year four. And if we're really planning, with my thought would be we're going to be planning on increasing that quite a bit from year one to year four as far as what we're doing.
Yeah.
Why is that differentiation in expenses so small?
Well, that's just the personnel cost right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I'm going to be able to increase personnel as much as I'll increase expenses for programming. So I mean, maybe there'll be some differences in there. I mean, that's just year one to year
looking at the
four.
part-time number, like I think what was the difference was like $4,000 for part-time expense, or $3,000. So that to me says we're not hiring any additional part-time people. That's just like additional.
From my projections there, I won't really be able to hire a lot more part-time staff. It might be event staff based, like one event at a time that they come in for, but my projections from at least from us creating that, and this is all just sort of what we think might happen. You know, stuff could change and shift and we could be completely wrong on how many people decide to come. A lot of my my revenue came off of like a 20% capacity for shows coming in. I think we'll sell more than that, but I wanted to make sure that our expenses were low enough so that we make sure we're on that green too. So if we start to really sell, then those things can shift and change too.
So what I'd like to see, I mean, this is all projections, it's all speculation, but I want to see good accounting for the first 3 years. I would expect it's going to take 3 years to get things really rolling the way we want. But if it looks like our expenses are way out of line with, you know, our staffing and our costs are way out of line with our revenues, then, you know, we'll want to figure out what's wrong and try to correct it. So good accounting of this is more important than speculation.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I had real numbers, I would give them to you.
Yeah.
My best stab at what we could potentially do with not knowing what was happening before, right? Because we have something brand new that we can't necessarily pull from. So.
But I do think it's at least in my mind, you know, the first 3 years are going to be a test.
Have we set up like internal goals as far as a district, as far as year one, this is what our goal is, year two, this is what our goal is, year three, this is what our goal is, year four, this is what our goal is. So we're striving towards something.
Financially or programming wise?
Well, just a percentage of revenue coming in from rentals and all that stuff from this new $20 million facility.
I mean, we've not really sat down and really concrete, like, wrote this down. Essentially,
that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
To have a roadmap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
What we got here is just the idea of the numbers of programs. We can percentage those out right now, and get.
I mean, it could be a good exercise. I mean,
Yeah, and yes, this is a low ball. As Jen has said, this is gonna be so dynamic as we continue to go forward. And either way, which way it goes, I can't tell you.
So my thought is this, sometime back, we said with recreation programs, we wanted to always strive to break even, strive not to have a lot of lost leaders, understanding that certain things like Chicken Festival and stuff are going to cost us money because they have a broad public benefit, which maybe our performance
We make
do
money,
too. But I think, if we find out in our first 3 years that we can't cover staff costs and expenses with our ongoing entertainment, then, probably we want to look at redirecting your staff time and efforts to other things that are priorities within the district, That's the way I would be looking at it, because we've taken on a couple new positions just with the anticipation we'll be making ends meet, making money perhaps. But if it doesn't work out, we have a history of not letting staff go. We just redirect our efforts to something higher priority.
Yeah, well, this project's not going away.
We're not.
Hey,
We're not reversing course.
We aren't gonna put the fence back up.
Then we're gonna have to close it down.
Yeah, we're gonna put the fence back.
We're gonna close down part of it.
The way I looked at this when we spent all the money and did the bond issue, I mean, our facilities have been around and they've been maybe underutilized, but they were falling apart. So the expenditures were there to keep the infrastructure in place for another generation, another 40, 50 years. If we don't use it initially, I'm confident that we'll grow into it over time. So I'm not really worried about the fact we've spent, whatever, 24 million or something on all this, because we're building for the next 50 years, not the next 3 years.
And we will be using the cost recovery model that we use in all of our programs. So when you talk about being able to report and be able to identify where we're losing, where we're making, and it's not just any program making money or not losing money. Some programs are designed to lose money. Let's just go to our parks for an example. They are designed to lose money. And we subsidize that by X amount of dollars. What our objective is at that point is to reduce that subsidy, whether by efficiencies or by possible other sources of income that we haven't identified.
Yeah.
And so with this project here, the same thing's happening. We're taking that cost recovery model, and we just talked about this today, putting the percentages of cost recovery into each of the elements. For an example, the band shell will have a different element than a rental. The rental will have a higher percentage of cost recovery, maybe even more than just general cost recovery. Maybe it's 110% of cost, because it is a private rental, not open to the general public.
Private and commercial rentals, that should fully cover it and maybe make them private. But as I said to you before, a good deal of our funding comes from property taxes. People are already paying for a lot of these subsidized things, and they're paying for the parks. The parks aren't really a loser. They've been paid for by property taxes.
And even when we talk about the rental, in reality, in that rental, if we put all true cost in, that rental is highly unlikely to make money.
Yeah. And what I would put in would be staff time and utilities.
Right.
Wouldn't try to amortize the cost of the facility in the first place.
And we have that formula for that in the cost recovery model that you've approved as a board and that we access and use for our programs. Yeah. We just currently aren't using them because we don't have programs. So.
All I'm trying to convey is that the cost of the facilities we provided doesn't have to be factored into that return, because it's like having your house paid off. You don't have to factor that in.
Right. All I'm saying is we've never done anything like this. We've never had anything this big that I think that we should have a little bit more of a organized pathway of what year 1 versus year 5 years, look like, and set some goals. Because everything we make goes right back to the community. It's not like we're a for-profit company. So it all benefits the community at large.
I understand your point. I'm just adding some of my bits. Not to take away from your comments there. So go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we'll do that for you for maybe not next
meeting, but we'll try.
Have to
down
right
the
away. I
road,
just
look at that.
yeah.
I mean, we can take these numbers from that pro forma, because that's what the model that we can kind of build off of too, so. We'll move into more expenses, so some of our, projected programming and event costs, so that looks about $9,646 with an annual of $115 and $762. We do have some box office and front of house costs, so it's about $683 a month with an annual budget of $8,203. Fundraising costs, so this more is the exact number about what we spent for the Garden Gala. So that's all of the fundraising that we do right now, but that's about an annual of $24,006. We do have some utility maintenance and overhead costs here, estimated about $28,435. And this is just sort of based off of some numbers I got from Sean, and we've decided that, well, that one we'll have to kind of narrow down because we don't know exactly what that's all about. So this brings, with the personnel cost, to our monthly total expenses estimated about, not with the personnel, now I get my roll again, just so the monthly expenses for programming estimated about $45,746 with an annual budget of that $548,963. That is the number with the personnel cost. Apologies. So this is a summary of all those projected revenue and expenditures. So total monthly revenue, like we just said, $46,295. Total annual revenue then of $555,546. Total monthly expenses, $45,746, with the total annual expenses of $548,963. An annual subsidy of $6,583. Most of that breakdown comes from about year 3 on my pro forma there, because that's when we actually start to operate in the green. Those first 2 years, at least from those projections, we might be right on the line there. So, just so you know, that's where those numbers came from.
That's a pretty small subsidy. If we hit that, we're back 1,000.
And remember that subsidy is direct cost.
Yeah.
For the operation.
Yeah. So next steps, looking at how we can engage the community. So launching some community awareness campaigns as we slowly get this, moving forward to openings. We'll promote those upcoming programs, highlight the rental opportunities. We can start to establish those collaborations, involve local artists, partner with schools, engage cultural organizations. We want to implement some feedback loops. So the first thing we have coming is a community survey that will hopefully be going out actually this week, so that the community can start to tell us things that they would like to see in this new space. That's the purpose of that. This goes in the point that we will constantly want to refine our programming and make sure that we're offering what the community wants to see in these new facilities. So, and this is just us considering audience preference. And then in conclusion, this space is a community-driven and then district-led initiative, so combining our efforts to enhance cultural offerings, ensuring inclusivity and sustainability, and then enriching programs for residents and visitors, so providing diverse and engaging activities, fostering a sense of community and belonging, and then a focus on sustainability, ensuring long-term viability for our programs. And that is the end. Thank you. No, it's a discussion and possible action, so we could discuss if you would like me to adjust things in this too. I can change some things. I can definitely go in with some goals for the next, 3 to 5 years, as Darren's suggested. And
comments from the board?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see something that's sort of a pathway of increased revenue and stuff over the first 4 or 5 years. Not necessarily the next meeting, but just have you guys start working on that.
Yeah. A lot of that is still play. I mean, I guess for us is which direction is this thing going? How popular will the rentals be? How popular will our community partners want to provide some kind of activity in there? There's so many.
And I totally agree, but I still think it's very valuable to have a goal for year 1 to work towards something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, this is what our North Star is. This is where we're going. This is what the goal is. If we come up short, okay, well, this is why we came up short. We go over, then great, and we adjust year 2 and year 3.
Just for clarity, is this something more than from what I have in that pro forma packet two that we went over with the technical supervisor? I've got 10-year projections on finances and ticket sales and things like that, and amounts of shows in each venue. I'd have to pull that up, but I mean, I can expand on that as well, but I'm just trying to, make sure I go in the right direction.
My thought is this, it's something you will track as we go along. And, you know that your ultimate goal is not to have to subsidize too much, that you cover your staff time and your operating expenses. So that's the goal. We know how much we're putting into that, so that's kind of fixed, right?
Yeah, and that's what
But
those
as we go
projections
along,
were,
let's
yeah.
measure how we're doing on that, by every 6 months or every quarter or whatever.
And
So
it may
that-
be that the goal is what you're projecting.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good exercise to go through and have that goal and then come back and revisit, okay, how did we do in either meeting or not meeting that goal? Right?
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm just, if I needed to build something else or another model or something, I just wanted to make sure.
I don't think you need.
I think all we,
And that's, because we can use that as the sum to bounce off of, because I did build all of that out, but it is really
It
just sort of
shouldn't be that
guesswork too.
complicated. Yeah, it
Yeah.
shouldn't be that like complicated.
Yeah, and we're gonna, I mean, the next 2 years is a lot of touching base and making sure we're going in the right direction.
Right.
too, So it's.
it sounds to me, we just want to monitor in real time as we go along, how we're meeting our idea of balancing revenue with expenses. Understanding that at the beginning it's going to be pretty shaky, but by the end of 3 years or 4 years, it ought to be pretty solid. Okay, Sierra, have some questions or comments?
I don't.
I just want
Thank
to say what I've said to you and Mike over and over again, and I think it's reflected in this, is that we've had, 20-some community partners over the years without whom we would not have such a dynamic recreation program and entertainment and everything else going on. And so I want to make sure that when they voted for the bond and all of these improvements, that they will remain a viable part. And you've included that in there, and I thank you for that. Okay, no other comments? Then
Thank you.
is there,
I'll get there in a second.
okay. Next on the agenda,
Wants to make a
we need, you have a motion made there?
action on, right? Make a motion to
It
approve
was in
the,
there on that. Yeah, we made it.
I don't have my
so,
report up.
you.
It's to approve that.
So it's to approve the operational overview for the newly renovated park community center. So approve the operational overview.
I'll make the motion to approve the operational overview.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
And again,
Question.
you're up next.
I am up next again. It's
Discussion
It's
and
the Jen
possible
Schuler
action
show today.
regarding approval of a contract for marketing services. To
Yes.
get to that goal.
Let's keep this ball rolling. Good evening again, Board of Directors. Jen Schuler, Arts and Entertainment Manager, for anyone who fell asleep out on the stream and forgot who I was. So this is quite exciting. I'm here to request approval to go into contract with Grey Dot Media for some marketing services. So with the upcoming launch of our new Fair Performing Arts Center, as well as the Village Park facilities across the street, we've sort of noticed that we might need a need for some more dedicated marketing strategies. So a few months ago, we put together an RFP that focused on 3 key areas of marketing. So the first one is some branding material for the new center. So we will have Fair Oaks Performing Arts Center. We'll have a logo created with some different color schemes. It'll still reflect our Fair Oaks Recreation Park logo, but have its own identity. So we have a more focused location for ticket sales. The second piece is creation of marketing materials for our rental facilities, so we can really dynamically promote all of those new facilities, but also all of our other facilities that are rented in our parks. And then the third piece is some enhanced ticket sale and event promotion. So we have a new facility here that'll have new events that people might not know about. So having an agency that we can sort of dump some of those events on, say, hey, will you market this in a way that we might not know how to do in-house? So those are the 3 areas. So we had 4 outstanding agencies that put in proposals for this, and we have decided to recommend Grey Dot Media. We would really aim to finalize a 1-year contract with them quite quickly so they can move forward with creating our branding so we can get that ball rolling with our ticket sales and website. And then, so our initial investment with this contract with Grey Dot would be about $48,000, which is the remaining funds we have from the American Rescue Plan Act from the county supervisor adjustment. So
And the rest of that allocation went for the first year for your
for the
staff.
technical supervisor, correct? Yeah.
Any questions?
I have a question. So the, like I was looking at the contract and I couldn't tell, I mean, they have different options where they have their fixed monthly fee and then an annual cost. So what are we getting for the 48,000?
So we'll get a bit off of each of those one thing. So we'll get the branding, we'll get some marketing material for rentals. It might not be as detailed as going into our website and updating everything, but we'll have a booklet that will have all the dimensions and pictures and things like that. That's the one biggest piece of that we were looking at. And then maybe some promotions and advertising in other kind of spots that we might not know to, like the wedding expo, get our booklet down there so people know they can have a wedding here, things like that. So, and then some of that ticketing and event promotion, that's on a case-by-case basis. As I've spoken with them, it'll be more if, say, we bring in a larger show that we know we need to sell tickets for, that's a time I might spend a little bit with their services to promote that show, so we make sure that we can have that return on our investment. So
Would we get all of the 4 phases that they have laid out here? So essentially 6 months of work, it sounds like?
Mhm.
Okay. And then at that point, what is their rate competitive with the other?
yeah, their rate was, they took into consideration how much we had. That was a part of the RFP, was this is the chunk of money we have to spend. What can you offer with that too? So they were really considerate with that. And then, of course, their resume took play into that as well. So that was part of our reason why we recommended it.
So is this a one-shot
I
marketing
think
thing, or would it be?
We'll do
a
1
continual-
year, and then if it's successful and we're able to make enough revenue through productions that we're doing, we might keep them on as either case-to-case basis or month-to-month. It kind of depends. I've sort of talked with their owner. That could be something that we could do.
It sounds like most of the marketing would be aimed at generating rentals, bringing in maybe weddings in the clubhouse or things like that.
Yeah.
I've seen publications of all the wonderful places in California or Northern California where you can have a wedding and what services they provide, cleaning services and all this other stuff. So that's the kind of thing they'd be doing.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping they'll do, is essentially do those things that we know we can't do in-house with some of those rental promotions.
Might be good if they tell you those other services too.
Oh yeah, that's the idea, is what have we not thought of too, and what can they bring to the table that we don't already do or think of?
Have they worked with any other agencies or districts?
Not necessarily park districts, but they have been in charge of the markets at the DOCO. That's one big promotional piece that they've been working on. So if you've seen those, they're like little checkered things that say DOCO, street market, they've been doing all of that promotion. Those are like
Did they
was it
create
Saturday?
logos and stuff?
Yeah,
too?
they've done all of that.
And this is only for what period of time? It's only the next,
Probably for a year from hopefully this coming week, because I'd like to get them contracted fairly soon, so we can get that branding piece.
so it'll be preliminary to really opening up all of our facilities.
That's the idea.
And remember, we have preliminary advertising we have to do included in the website, and so that branding has to be in place for the website. We aren't waiting to open for the website.
Do they actually do the website modifications and stuff? And
No, they won't be. We'll continue to use the Civic Plus, who we currently use for our website. They're gonna build out a secondary page for us for ticket sales, but they're gonna, Grey Dot will create the platform, not the platform, sorry, the branding, so the color schemes, the logo, that type of thing.
What other social media do they get involved in for marketing?
I would assume if they're taking on a campaign, it would be every outlet they can think of. I mean, they do a lot of video production as well right now, so I'm hoping they can do some of that for us so we can have some nice new footage of the new facilities, things like that. People like that. It
The
draws.
130,
What was that?
is that included in the 130,000 or?
Is it?
48,000.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 48.
48, yeah.
So a question, we had these beautiful renderings. I think they were done by our architect and the facilities. I don't know how much they cost us, but pictures are worth, 10,000 words. Would they be able to help us with more of that?
With new photos, yes.
Or should we work with our architect to get more addressed?
Oh, I don't think they'll create renderings for us, but they can help us take real photos of the spaces. And I know that will be a little bit of a juggling act as the
As we
spaces
get
get done and things start to
Yeah.
beautify over there, but, yeah.
Well, it sounds necessary.
Essential.
I mean, the facilities are paid for, but I don't want them to sit there regularly. Despite what it sounds like.
I make a motion, to enter into a contract with Grey Dot Media for marketing services as laid out marketing services, RFP. And that the district administrator be authorized to execute.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving right along. The next thing is 8.5. 8.4, which is a discussion and possible action regarding selection of SCI for assessment engineering services. There are standard
Yes.
consultant there.
We've been contracting with them since the assessment districts were formed. And this year, as is our practice, we did go out to bid to see if there are any other agencies out there that we might work with. We got 2 proposals back. One was SCI Consulting Group, the other one was NDS. They were both responsive to the RFP. They were slightly different in price. SCI Consulting Group was just a bit less. And since we've been working with them for so long, we have a great working relationship. And that is the firm that the district is recommending.
Do you have any questions?
I'll make a motion to select SCI for assessment engineering services.
Second?
I'll second.
Seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That was an easy one. We get a good consultant. We keep them. Discussion and possible action on approval of a revised salary schedule to reflect the minimum wage increase as of January 1st, 2025. Is that you, Jennifer?
That's me. So this is another minimum wage increase that will go into effect January 1st, 2025. Right now it's $16 an hour, and 2025 it's up to $16.50. That's about a 3% increase for our part-time staff. That was assumed when we did the budget, and we will continue to see these increases, I believe, over the next couple of years until it gets $18 an hour, which I think is what the threshold is. Director Tamani had asked, and I just wanted to point out that she was concerned about compaction between the part-time staff and the full-time staff. But because we've done COLAs for the last few years, that has stayed pretty consistent with the minimum wage percentage amount. There's no compaction right now.
This is not an optional thing. It's mandatory. So any questions for Jennifer?
No.
Motion?
Make a motion to approve the revised salary schedule to reflect the minimum wage increase as of January 1, 2025.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No dissenters on this group here. Okay. Next item, 8.6, discussion and possible action regarding selection of the board chair and vice chair for next year, 2025.
There's no staff recommendation for this item. This is more for the board to discuss and decide. The rotation that you've been using over the last many years since I've been here is from 2020 on to 2024 is on the staff report. Right now, it's Director Carhart is the chair, Director Tremaine is the vice chair, typically the vice chair becomes the chair. And the moving Director O'Farrell is next in line to be vice chair.
And that's been the case for the 22 years I've been on, so.
Yeah.
May I make the motion as the chair that we get this right, that we select Linda Tamani to be the 2025 chair and John O'Farrell to be the 2025 vice chair.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Let's see
Any
you there.
discussion? Anybody want to weasel out of that? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any dissension? Hey. Unanimous. Congratulations. I guess you take over at the next meeting. January.
Pass the gavel.
You let me finish up this meeting. Okay, 8.7 is discussion and possible action regarding the annual Board of Directors meeting calendar and committee assignments for 2025.
This item is just the approval of the calendar for 2025, which is attached. There were no odd dates like we sometimes have in December. So the third Wednesday of every month is the meeting date. And then the special committee assignments, those are up to you. I've attached the 2024 committee assignments that we have. We can change those up.
Does anybody want to change their committees, first of all? Or is everybody happy with the committee they're on, or they want to swap with somebody else?
I'm fine.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
I'm also fine. I would recommend maybe we just swap chairs.
Yeah.
Alternate chairs, so whoever was the chair last year.
Yeah. So, then a motion then to approve and swap the chairs.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the calendar for 2025 and the committee assignments for 2025 to remain the same with the exception of changing, alternating the chair.
I'll second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Beautiful. What? Well. Now, any items from the Board of Directors? Anybody got anything?
I'm hoping the rain will go away. They're going to be on schedule for April 25.
You know, it looked like there's going to be a big storm coming in, so.
Christmas lighting was awesome. Great weather, great turnout, and staff did a great job. I had to leave right before you got up and introduced the tree, but I got to hang out with Rich Desmond for a little while. So it was a great event.
Mary was really careful this year. She didn't give me the microphone. So. But
You just held it.
our sponsor, the tree service fellow, he managed to grab it. But yeah, it was a wonderful event. I don't know how we can, I was thinking, how do we ever get that event back into the plaza with the crowds we have? Probably going to have to do some hybrid stuff, you know.
Well, I just closed down the street.
It's harder than ever these days. But yeah, be interesting to see how staff handles it next year. But it was wonderful this year. Any other comments from anybody?
Parks look beautiful, the tree looks gorgeous, all the rec programs that are happening this month have been really great. I've got lots of feedback from people in the community enjoying all the programming, so I don't have anything else.
Well, I just add again that thanks Sean for all of his work on alternative disc golf sites. And thank Jennifer also for working on the item that'll come up in January under your tenure, which is the rental fees for the Performing Arts Center and its facilities. And, John and I had a committee meeting the other day, and sending that forward to you guys at the January meeting. Mike, items from the staff.
Yeah, so Ian, did you have anything? And Sean, I believe you have a couple of things.
Yeah, I have 2 items. Ventura Parks and Facilities Manager. I will try and be quick because we were running late as it is. Wanted to bring to the board's attention that Fulton Camino Police Department has since the end of November been formally dissolved. We're no longer in contract with that organization as it no longer exists at this point. not certain what the future is for, police, whether it will become something else or just be gone forever. In the meantime, we're exploring our options with our private security firm, and we are still working closely with Sacramento Sheriff's Department. They are responding to our calls. They do respond to the parks. So,
Sean, what about the Rangers, county Rangers?
it's been discussed. It is highly unlikely, just because of the price tag, I believe, and staffing over there as well.
We have a consortium of district administrators, and we're going over all these options, including the park rangers, as well as the potential of a similar type of service maybe with Sacramento County Sheriff. So those are still all out there, though. There's nothing concrete, and we're continuing to meet over that.
But the sheriff is fully apprised that
We have met in the
districts
room.
have our staff.
Yeah, we met in the room with the sheriff and the California State Highway Patrol.
And we quit paying the bill, right?
Yeah, and that's why you don't have an FEC report this month. The website is no longer.
Is there any kind of pre-contract with this?
Yes and no. There is an out in this contract for situations outside of their control. This situation is outside of their control. Sacramento County Sheriff is no longer providing support for dispatch services. It's real hard to do a police department without dispatch services.
Right.
Right.
So it's not their fault. And Sacramento County has their own reason for no longer providing that service.
And unless there are any other questions on that, one other item from me, it's essentially whether you would like to direct me to bring fencing options for Miller Disc Golf Course to a committee in the following year. I have received a couple of quotes on the amount of fencing we need there, and we're looking at for chain link from anywhere from $28,000 and above to wrought iron, which is a $40,000 price tag or above. And as a staff, we don't have great interest in fencing off play areas of the kids out there. So just bringing these numbers to you and seeing if you would like me to bring that to a committee of your board.
Personally, I'd rather you put your effort into the Bannister Park study.
Yeah, I agree.
Noted. Thank you.
Nick.
Good evening, board directors. Nick Davis, the recreation manager. I was going to actually touch a little bit on the tree lighting, so I know we already discussed that a little bit, but just again, want to echo great job by staff putting that on and the parks department for making the tree light as it should when the countdown happened. But it was a truly great event, and you might have noticed we did move it to a Thursday this year rather than a Saturday. And I think we found great success with that. The attendance was very, very good this year. We also good luck out with nice weather. But we do look forward to bringing it back to the village next year. It will be a little bit different, obviously. We have a little more confined in that space. We will be creative in how we do that, but we do feel like it's going to be great to do for that event. So we'll be working on that. And I know I spoke to the chamber, and we'll be meeting early 2025 to start discussing those plans. And then since we are wrapping up 2024, I just want to say thank you for all your support for the district and the staff and all the
Thank you. So will there still be a tree in Fair Oaks Park, or we'll bring that tree back to the?
That tree will come to the village.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Been too long.
I went around, when I was there, I talked to all the vendors and all the people that were there, and the same general consensus that everybody thought it was great. They were happy with, the crowds and what they were selling and stuff. So I think we were successful in that way too.
Absolutely. Yeah, and sometimes we gauge like attendance off of food truck revenue, and we did see that the food truck revenue actually increased this year. So it's good.
And the Christmas party was wonderful. Was Mary, who organized that?
That's the fun committee. So Mary, Ian, and am I missing? Oh, Matt and Alice.
Yeah, good job, guys.
It's a fun committee.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Didn't you?
No, sorry guys.
What was your name again?
I know, right? Well, Ralph stole one of my updates, but as he said, I will be bringing the fees for the new facilities, lots of stuff about performance fees to our January meeting for a public hearing. We met as a committee, but prior to that, we met with our community partners to get their feedback on them as well. So
feel like we've done quite a lot of due diligence on that, but it's still a lot of numbers, so again, I apologize. My other two updates, one of them's a bit sad, but it's understandable. The Fair Oaks Theater Festival has decided to go dormant for 2025, so they will not be doing a production with us for our opening season. They're hoping to come back with full force in 2026, giving themselves more time for planning, fundraising, making sure they stay on top of being able to keep producing quality work for everyone. Staff. Kind of sad, but understandable from our schedule changing as well. So. That's number two. Number three is just mark your calendars now because we have set a date for the Garden Gala, which will be May 17th, same place, Horticulture Center. So put that on there now if you like to come to those things, and we'll start sending out stuff for ticket sales and promotions and things like that as we get closer and closer.
Did you say May 17th?
May 17th.
Back at the garden?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And we have a lovely photo of you and your wife from.
I know, I saw that.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you, everyone.
Did you want
Have a
to
lovely
mention?
holiday. Oh,
Did you want to mention the September 25th community event, the historical event?
I mean, you can, yeah. So
That's one of your.
Yeah, we'll be hosting the Historic Society for their, what is this, 75th?
50th anniversary.
50th anniversary, excuse me. On September 27th is what I have on my calendar.
I think it was the 25th, I believe. It's
Saturday, I think. I had 27th, 27th down, but we'll confirm. Yep, so we'll be having them, they'll be doing, I think there's a band, they'll be playing on the band shell, so they'll have that part of the park. They want to do something in the plaza area as well, and then doing some type of event in the clubhouse. So we'll be all hands on deck for that day. Be quite an event. Excited.
That is the 27th, and you know, again, that commitment to community partners, I would just want to reiterate, our commitment to that. The Fair Oaks Theater Associate Festival has been our first contracted entity for services, and our first real program for a community partner will be the Historic Society uses of the facility. It's important statements, that those two things make. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
I got a couple of things here, just real quickly. The Fair Oaks Theater Festival, that we walked around with them today on site, and gave them the site tour and discussed some of the things and some of the challenges that might occur because of their year of non-activity. We do want theatrical performances in the facility next year. So we will use potentially another contractor for some of it, and maybe there'll be another person coming in. We are still going to honor, obviously, the Fair Oaks Theater Festival's contract for 2026, but there's challenges when you're not the first in the facility. And so we're going to be working through those. And, and they're aware of that. For an example, the concessions, they will not be doing concessions. And more than likely in 2026, they will not be doing concessions. That hopefully we'll have some other concession thing in place. They can bid on it. I shouldn't say they won't do it. They will be allowed to bid on it, of course. And leading into that, there's a SB 286, 386. Anyway, it's a Senate bill from California. It's called sidewalk vending. You are not allowed anymore to prohibit vending in the park for merchandise or food. Now, there are some restrictions. For an example, they have to have a license and they have to have a health permit if they're selling food. And so you could have basically a sunglass vendor in your park. And we're meeting next week with all of the park districts around this area, including the county. The county is the authority over this. We don't have the authority. We cannot supersede a state Senate bill. We cannot supersede the county regulations for the permitting and things like that. But they're aware of that. We're working through it. Just so you know, it is possible that that could impact future concessions.
Can we still charge fees for them?
We're looking at that. My understanding is no. I need some clarification from when we have our meeting. The idea is to allow these up and coming folks basically an opportunity to create revenue for them, for their business.
They have to offer some protections for the, the public agency? Can they camp out there 24/7?
We still have to follow some park rules, for example, hours of operations, that's a definite, yes, that has to happen. But, and there are restrictions, like you can't be in a fire lane, you can't, things like that, there's a bunch of.
Are you saying like chicken festival, somebody could just go up and squat with a 10x10 booth?
That's one of those questions that we need to find out, and that's coming up when we all get together and discuss this with the county, and it's the county economic development, I can't remember the name of the department, but this is a state mandate, and every park department, every park district is going to be.
Well, they'll have to have the permits and be able to show that.
Yes.
And I doubt any of them will.
It seems like, maybe our events can be construed as a private event or as a controlled public event.
And we'll find that question out.
I used to have the same problem with our state rest areas. We had the coaches come in there. We could control the numbers and the location. So they're probably going to set up some guidelines.
There are, I've seen the draft of some of it, but again, having that impactful conversation with all the park districts, all the park departments, and saying, how are we going to manage this puzzle that's coming down? So we'll see how it plays out. I just want to give you that heads up on that. That is one of the challenges we're working with. We're working with food and police right now. And then we had a public outreach, or the ad hoc committee for parking management had a meeting, and just bringing this up that we will have community meetings on the managed parking and what that might look like. The managed parking could be a controlled or enforced 2-hour limit, for an example. There's 2-hour signs out there. If you look at the park right now, right across from the brew pub, there's a 2-hour sign there. If that kind of management approach is there, how's that enforced? Is that what we're doing? That kind of thing. The other option is to do nothing. What we've had in the past, just let it be a free for all. And third is to probably have some kind of paid parking option within our parking areas. And so we're going to be bringing those out to the community and discussing those. And then you'll be hearing more and more about that. Just so you know, that's coming up. The ad hoc committee did recommend 2 outreaches. The first one will be Saturday, February 8th at 10 a.m. at the McMillan Center. And the second one will be Thursday, February 13th at 6 p.m. at the McMillan Center. So we'll have a morning Saturday and a weeknight for that outreach. And so we'll start promoting that after the first.
Where those meetings will be here in the village.
McMillan Center. And we need to be inside. It's the only place we can with parking and everything. So.
I heard rumors about who started the AT&T lot and where it's at. I thought, weren't you the initial one that opened that up, or was it Votech?
No, it was us.
It was us, yeah. So I think you should get some credit for that.
Well, Votech signed the long-term with AT&T.
Yeah.
So they have the long-term.
And didn't they get some money from the supervisor?
Yes.
For the gates and lighting? Has that been done yet?
Yes, it has. Yes.
It has been.
The gate has nothing.
So when will it actually be used for?
It's currently being used for employees only.
Is it?
Yeah. So employees and businesses in the village, so to try and encourage them to get out of the street.
And it's secure during the days.
There's it's a automatic gate, and so they have a code that they can use to get in.
Good. You deserve some good credit for getting that rolling.
And that's all.
That's it?
That's it.
Anybody else from staff? With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn to the January 15th, 2025 meeting.
I'll make that motion that we adjourn until the January 15th, 2025 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
No. You're kidding, right?
Yeah.